Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Cinematic Realms. I'm your host, John Webster, and with me today is Carole. We're running a bit behind. Sorry, guys, just technical difficulties.
Totally my fault. Sorry about that. Totally my fault.
So today's going to be a little short, then, so we're going to just try and plow through the stuff as quickly as we can, but we're talking about Ridley Scott's Alien today, which I have a feeling, Carole, that you and I are going to agree a bit more today than we did on our last stream.
On The Hobbit, yeah, anything by Rankin Bass, they're gonna have issues. Yeah, this I have to share. This is like one of my top 10, if not top 5, go-to movies that is on repeat. If I'm running around the house and just I'm like I'm in the need of something, this goes in. It's either this or Into the Spider-Verse, because that one kind of bumped up on the list. But Aliens all day long, dude. When you asked me about this, I was like, yes, let's do this.
Yeah, it's funny that you say it's a movie that you can turn on anytime, because strangely I find that for me this is a movie that I have to like watch at nighttime when it's when like all the lights are off and the creep factor is raised, which is funny because I don't like being scared in movies typically. But for some bizarre reason, this movie is the exception. I don't know if it's the science fiction element or what, but I'm just, it's like every time I watch this movie, I just find myself more and more immersed in it.
It's got to be the Ridley Scott factor, because this is a work of art. I mean, his timing, his pacing, his framing, the cinematography, the actors, the writing. I mean, it shouldn't work. It's something that the premise is something that you see in your typical slasher pick on Halloween or, Friday the 13th. But the element of the danger of you're in the middle of space, you're locked in a room with this thing for all intents and purposes. And how do you deal with it? So it just ratchets it up. And Ridley he nailed this one to the wall. He just did this so well. And it lasts. Even the effects, the movie itself has legs. I mean, it's still, you could pop this in a movie theater today and it would be packed.
Yeah, it's funny because there are a lot of elements of the movie that, one could call dated, from the sort of production design of, like the computer technology, which obviously we've moved past, and some of the visual effects. But strangely, despite that, it doesn't really seem to age. It
works.
It's just such a beautiful film that when you enter it, it's like you're immersed in the world that Scott creates. And it feels like, and it's funny because I got so excited a couple of years ago when they released that Alien Isolation game, which I'm not as much of a gamer.
Yeah,
I'm not as much of a gamer as I used to be when I was a kid, but I enjoyed seeing what they were doing with it because they were adhering to.
They brought in all of the Ridley-esqueness, and they brought in the atmospherics, and they brought in the dark. His use of the dark, just something as simple as opening a door and all you hear is that klaxon. You have 5 seconds to get off this ship before your behind gets blown away. Have a nice day. You just want to slap the ship's computer, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you hear Sigourney Weaver's voice. Hey, Pepper, stop. Sorry, that's the dog who's she's adding her commentary. But yeah, it's like, oh my God, what in the world? This is insane. This is crazy. But it so works. And I've seen Alien Isolation, and it's, as you go through the levels and as you go through the layers, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's perfect. I love that they did retro, because I think it works. And to your point of the technology, frankly, I can see the first big long distance flight that goes out, like maybe Mars or beyond, being like that, where let's keep it as simple as possible so we can quickly fix it if we have to. Let's not make it too tech forward because we don't have a Best Buy Geek Squad, can't just roll up and fix it. So it works for me.
Yeah. And it's funny because actually I'm sure that when this film came out, a lot of the technology on ship probably did look quite futuristic to its audience, but what it does for I think for an audience who's coming to this after the fact is it almost adds this sort of creepy element where everything's sort of so low tech that it adds to that vibe of the scariest thing in the film really is not the alien at all. It's sort of being in this little ship, not quite so little, but it feels small.
It does.
And outside is just the cold vacuum of space. And this is all we have to protect ourselves.
This is it. It's like, you better get it together, figure this out. Absolutely. Now, the funny thing is that the original movie came out in 1979, I think.
Yeah.
Which was 2 years after Star Wars, the first Star Wars. So if you think about it in terms of, I'll pick on Star Wars. With Star Wars, you have, the Star Destroyers and all of that, where everything in there is high tech. And even then it kind of looks, very mechanical. But then you look at Han Solo's ship, the Millennium Falcon, and you even look at Boba Fett's ship. It looks like somebody went to a Radio Shack and pulled circuits, wires, capacitors, and resistors, and were making those panels, because all you see are the switches flipping and all of that button pushing that you wouldn't think if we were that so far advanced. Even Star Trek, if you think about the TV show, which is in the 60s, and then the movies that were coming along around about this time, the reboots, same thing. The technology was a lot of button pushing, so it looks like somebody was doing something. And it was only until it got beyond that you're seeing more of the touch screens and all of that other stuff. As soon as you go to those backwater planets like Firefly, when you're on, with Mal and with the team, their ship looks like it's put together with duct tape, glue, and a couple of prayers and a paper clip. And it's that kind of put together on the seat of your pants. How is this thing flying? And if one thing gets ripped off, it's, I think of, Mal when in Serenity, when the movie came out and they were going through atmosphere and a panel pops off and he was like, did something fall off my ship? And you're like, yep, we're back. So this, to me, absolutely adds to that. It makes it a character, not just this throughput. So this ship starts out very pristine and clean in the beginning, and then Ridley is a master of just bringing you in and sucking you in, and just, you are in there like this in the movie theater with 40,000 of your closest, nearest, dearest friends. And I remember being a kid and my sister took me with her on a date with her boyfriend at the time. And her boyfriend and I were just like, we were a mess. And, as we're going through the movie, I'll tell you exactly the scenes where the two of us were just like, and we ended up getting the people around us in the movie theater were like, oh my God, that must be it. And everyone was freaking out in this movie, in the theater. When you watch it on TV, it still has that freak out factor. I love it. Everything about it, I love it. Good choice on this one. I love it.
Yeah, I actually saw it for the first time in 2003 when, or it might have been a little after that, maybe around 2005. And I had rented the DVD of it and had never seen it before, except I had memories of when I was a kid and my parents were watching it. And for some bizarre reason, I was in the room with them at the time, but I was way too small. And I just remember, I don't even remember getting to the actual main alien. I just remember the facehugger crawling around and burying my head under the pillow, because it was so terrifying to me. Because especially since, a movie like this as a little kid, you're like, it's way too serious of a sci-fi. You're looking for something when you hear the title Alien as a kid, you're hoping for lighthearted kind of, fun alien movie, not
like E.T. You're thinking,
yeah.
E.T. This ain't that,
Yeah. So, but that scared me off it for a really long time. And so I finally did watch it around 2005. And I just remember like pausing the movie constantly because that's the thing about this film is it sets you on edge for so much of it. Yeah, it's just cranking that tension.
Cranks. It just cranks. And when you think they'll like pop in humor, but yet that crank is still right here going, are you good? Okay, crank.
Yeah, so this was me just like every few minutes just pressing pause, standing up and walking, like pacing around the room, like and don't even talk to me about once it started to, because even if you haven't seen the movie before, about the chestburster scene.
Yes.
Because it's seared into public consciousness. So when it's about halfway through the movie and they're around that dinner table, major pausing and like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this.
But you have to. You have to. But because from there, that's when we go from the first act is done and now we're in the hopper. Yeah. You are in it and you have to go through that gate. It's just like the video game. It's like, sorry, you got to go through that portal.
And see,
I hope you saved before you went through there, or you got to go through this again. Yes, absolutely.
And see, that's sort of the brilliant thing about the way this movie, I think, will travel through the different generations, even years ahead. It's like, maybe, if you were watching completely fresh, it wouldn't have the same kind of shock factor as it did for audiences back in 1979, because we kind of recognize the limitations of the special effects at the time. But it has such a reputation that I think the anxiety going into this movie, like, makes it so that like you can't help but be on edge with this film. And
if memory serves, Ridley had done Blade Runner.
No, this actually came first.
This was first. Okay, so he was known in England for doing excellent film, and Blade Runner was going to then be that big global thing. But Alien caught everybody off guard. They weren't ready for this, just like they weren't ready for Star Wars. But this, I actually, for special effects, H.R. Giger, whom I love to death, snatched the Special Effects Academy Awards away from the second Star Wars because of that alien ship. He made that thing. He boiled bones and carcasses, and that thing was demented, and boy, did it show in all of that. And then you had, Benjamin Burt and all of the, don't get me started, because I mean, just every aspect of his team who put this together were just amazing. And then his cinematographer, I want to say it's Darius, he was like the Lord of Darkness, because he used black in such a way, and everything was framed in camera. There was no CGI to cover that up. I mean, the wires had to be practically covered, and everything had to be done because it's follower after this Aliens, the second one with James Cameron. That was like one of the last movies that was done all impractical, and he tried his best to keep to the look and feel of what Ridley did, but he did make it his own. But Ridley set the bar. It was like a whole new standard of filmmaking when he did this, and this whole genre of space horror just started. And I mean, Sigourney Weaver got nominated for an Oscar, which never happened, and horror picture fantasy never happened.
That actually happened for James Cameron's film Aliens, where she was nominated, which maybe doesn't seem as incredible to us now,
right?
But back then it was like, wait, what?
Because no one heard of Sigourney Weaver. I think this was her first film. Or second, it was
but by the time she had done Aliens, she had gained some respect.
Oh, absolutely! But But for Alien,
Yeah.
it's not her second movie. I mean, it was like at the very beginning of her career. And this movie she nailed it for being a novice. And the cast that he put together, Yaphet Kotto and, William Hurt and Tom Skerritt and, oh my God, my favorite, Veronica Cartwright, because her doppelganger was Bill Paxton in Aliens, because they were the people who were like, what the heck? Get out of here. Run, leave. Why are we doing this? I don't understand. We need to go. And everybody in the movie theater was like, listen to her. Did you see what she said? We need to go. I mean, why, Harry Dean Stanton, oh my goodness. And the way he and Yaphet Kotto played against each other was just everyday people going to work. Just happens to be in a spaceship in the middle of nowhere.
And that's sort of the brilliant conceit of this film, because for me, the major problem with most horror films is that you're always like, why don't they just leave? And why are they so stupid? But first of all, they can't leave the ship because, well, the escape
pod is limited in number.
Yeah, would only hold so many people. So even when Veronica Cartwright's character is like, let's get the hell out of here, there's too many people left alive at that point. So they can't take it yet. But also, they're just essentially truck drivers in space.
Yes.
So this doesn't fall into the trap of, what even Ridley Scott's, later sequel or prequel did, Prometheus, where you've got like these, supposedly brilliant people on board the ship making really dumb
decisions. But that's because we're too smart to realize what we're looking at. Oh no, that can't be it. And and that gets played against them. It's like, dude, everything is telling you. And even Ripley at one point is like, yeah, we need to go. Oh no, we're in charge. And and the whole trope of the women being dismissed, but the women were right and they were not being listened to. The other thing I was going to say was the thing that I absolutely loved, as opposed to Star Wars, there was no hyperdrive. There was no warp. There was none of that. The first time anybody goes on long distance, space travel, you're going to have to be in hypersleep.
Yeah.
Because there's no other way to do that. I mean, it was great with the Hadron Collider, with the stuff with the potential going forward. But the first time you send somebody anywhere, they're going to have to go to sleep. And I read a Aliens, I'm trying to remember, I have it in here somewhere. It was a series of books, novels that followed, and it talked about being asleep and dreaming a good dream for almost like 6 years, or having a nightmare and you can't wake up for 6 years. And you think about that. You're in a forced sleep and your brain is still active. It's still going. And then all of a sudden your subconscious just decides, yeah, let's visit that horror movie we saw right before we got on this thing and went into this hyperpod. And now you're in there being chased by whatever for 6 years nonstop. You can't wake up. Could you imagine that? But I like that Ridley didn't try to over-engineer this. I like that he said, what would the technology be like right now? What would it be? And this was after Star Wars and Star Trek and all this other stuff. He said, nope, strip it all down to a truck driver. If you have a long haul on a truck, there's no NOS canister in your truck to speed the truck up. You just got to drive that long haul. And you've just got to drive through the desert where there's no, what is the signs out heading like at 66 going west, last gas for the next whatever, and you better gas up or you'll be stuck out in the middle of nowhere with no help. That's what it was like. That appealed to me. And I think that also added to the freak out factor. It's like, what in the world? Really? And just so many things that just came into play. And now there's nobody who can come get you. Because if it took you forever to get out there, there's no help. There's no one going to just ride in and, hey, we'll send a ship. Nope, none of that.
And again, that's what's so frightening to me about this film is that it's just, put aside the alien for a second, which is a brilliant terrifying creation, but it's just this idea of being out in the cold dark of space and there's nobody to rescue you, you know, and it's like you said, it's a long haul back home. You know, they have to get through it by doing hypersleep, but there's no quick escape.
There's no quick solution. There's no quick out.
Yeah.
You've got to work the problem. In this movie, and a more modern movie that I love because I love the book by Andrew Weir, and I love the movie, and that was The Martian. They did the exact same thing. Modern times, you would have thought they would have figured out, you know, space flight. Other than nope, you had to put them in hypersleep, and you're on this long haul. And Mark Watney is sitting there on the surface of Mars, and he's going to have to science the crap out of some stuff with some pirate ninjas and work it out. And it just so happened he was a botanist. And I mean, these are the problems that you have to freak out. But to your point, there's no alien on Mars, but you were constantly freaking out because it's the atmosphere. If his suit gets punctured, he's dead. If his habitat blows up, which it did, he's dead. If this happens, he's dead. And it's like all of those, it's like Apollo 13. It was a successful failure because you think about it, that's a tin can with a bunch of push buttons and some switches, and they're hell and gone away from Earth, heading to the moon, and that thing blows up. And that was the real deal. I like that they pulled all of those elements into Alien, and I love that it was in The Martian. So just Ridley, all hail to Ridley, love him to death. I don't care what he does, but this movie just, for me, it just like opened my eyes to, I just love this. I want to just watch it all the time because you find something new every single time.
Yeah. And I once read a description of this film where it like, the first time you see it, it like burrows its way into your subconscious and it never quite leaves. And that's the way I feel about the film. And let's start talking about some of the remarkable cast of this film. You mentioned Sigourney Weaver. I mean, okay, so she's really well known, but there is just no like overpraising one can do for her work in not just Alien, but Aliens as well. She's remarkable, and this was, if not her first overall film, at least her first major film, but I think it probably was her first film. And what's great is that I know that not everybody was convinced about her. Ridley knew and that she would be and Ridley's whole thing was always he wanted to cast, you know, the right people so that he didn't have to worry so much about directing the actors.
Let the actors do the actor thing. The writing was stellar, and all he had to do was just drive the ship. And you know, and there were aspects of that where he saw Sigourney Weaver tells a really cool story about how she met Ridley, and she was wearing her knee-high go-go boots, and she's like 6 feet tall, and she's wearing these tall boots and walking in there looking like a 60s go-go dancer, and didn't realize exactly the enormity of this interview. It was her first lead. Thank you, Hirpy Dragon.
Thank you, Steve.
But it was interesting that she walked in and he looked at her and he just knew, yep, because this is not a pretty film. You're not walking in there and all this gorgeous hair and makeup and all this other stuff. I mean, you're walking in there looking like you're going to work like we are with all being at home, resume meetings, casual, comfortable. Yes, there was a uniform because there's a military aspect of it, and then there's the science aspect of it. But for the most part, it was just, we're going to strip all this down and make this about the people and make this about the environment and then make it about the circumstances. Those are the three things. That's it. And I couldn't imagine anybody else but Sigourney being in this movie at all. She nailed it. Absolutely nails it.
Yeah, there's they talk in the documentary for this film on the Blu-ray about the fact that I guess some of the people on, on the film, probably producers, some were like, is she really doing that much in the scenes? Doesn't seem like she's quite nailing it. But then when they look back at the footage, they could see what a remarkable job she did. It's something
her facial
with her eyes and the way she commands the screen. It's
like she knew what not to say. Her facial tics, when she's showing fear, it was, you could see it ratchet up as she was starting to get suspicious, and she's angry at Ash, and she's angry at being dismissed. There's that daily work vibe going. But there was this extra added as things started going way south, way bad, way just off the edge of the flat earth cliff. And she's saying, don't go that way. Why are we doing this? Just the way she would just command her silence. Because you would have some people who would just talk through that all to death, and you would just don't get a chance as an audience to feel what that person's feeling. But she sucked you right in. Now, on the opposite aspect of that is Veronica Cartwright, who was it Penny Robinson? She was on Lost in Space. So she was on that TV show years back. And I think she might have been on The Sound of Music, if memory serves. But anyway, Veronica Cartwright basically went into this as, no, I'm just here for whatever. I'm here to punch 9 to 5 and go home. And then when things started, immediately she's like, why are we out here? That's not our home system. What are we doing? Perhaps we don't need to be. I mean, she was like, but it worked for her because she was just so non-trusting and so sarcastic and so, look, dude, I'm not trying to be out here in the middle of nowhere. She was aware of where they were at all times. Whereas Tom Skerritt is trying to be like, I'm the captain, I'm running the ship. She's like, nah, hun, nah, Holmes. You may be running the ship, but we're in the ship in the middle of bleeding nowhere.
Some of my favorite parts with her in the beginning when Dallas and Kane, played by John Hurt, are talking about going out and investigating, the transmission when they essentially crash landed on the moon, and Kane's all like, is it within walking distance? Because he's like, going into this, he's the sort of hotshot executive officer who, wants to go that extra leg. And she's looking over like, don't include me in this. Don't include me in this.
It's like, y'all have fun. I'll be right here having a cup of tea, because the whole thing is like, why are we doing this? I mean, because even when they're landing, they were all about their jobs. They were doing what needed to be done. But then when the landing struts hit that, rocky terrain, and they're telling you this terrain is not smooth, and you hear this rip and this tear, it's like, what the heck? And everything is going in the claxons and the smoke and the fog.
And that's another thing. It's like when they're landing, like if it's not a completely smooth landing, it's going to do some serious damage to the ship. It's not like,
and it's not like you have another ship that you can, and then, when Yaphet Kotto was like, yeah, we can't do anything about this unless it's in dry dock. We're going to have to just literally whip out the duct tape and some gum. And then you're right. There's John Hurt. I said William Hurt earlier. John Hurt is sitting there like, field trip, road trip, can we go? And everyone's looking at him like, have you lost your mind? We don't even know if the ship is going to be able to take off. And he's like, whoa, why you're here? Well, I'm just going to go out here and nip out to the 7-Eleven and, pick up a pack of smokes. It's like, dude, seriously. But just the dynamics between them of Dallas trying to be that cool captain and John Hurt Kane is being so, yeah, but as science officer, we need to go do whatever. And then Ash was playing everybody against one another. Well, I mean, if you want to go, I guess it's okay. And then there's Ripley and Veronica, gosh, what is her name? Lambert, thank you. Lambert going, are they nuts? What? You're right. Lambert's like, I don't want to. Why do I have to go? Why do I have to go? Why do I have to go?
Yeah, and she's that person who, like, they're already out there, and she's spending every minute trying to nudge them, like, we can still go back.
Come on. We should go back. we should go back. This is not cool. Especially when they came up on the side of the derelict ship. She's like, oh, yeah, we should leave like now. We should go. Right back. Oh, look at the time. I left the water running in the bathtub in the ship. Gotta go. You go on without me. I got it. And they're like, come on. And Kane, tell me how much you wanted to slap him. Oh, we can't go. We can't turn back. We have to go on. No, you don't. You see this bigger than life space jockey pilot thing with the chest blown out. Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
He was like, okay. Oh, we have to do this. Yes, let's do it. And Veronica's like, yeah, I think we should go. I think we should leave. I think let's go. Let's go.
I do want to talk about some utterly brilliant choices that Ridley Scott made here, which is, first of all, when they're approaching the derelict ship, because they didn't, it looks great in that wide shot. That's a stunning shot of the ship. But it wasn't really detailed enough to go in the
super close.
So what they did is they're showing us the ship through the video transmissions from from the helmet
on board.
Yes. And then they're filming that with the movie cameras, and it looks more real as a result.
Because it was rear projection, but they knew that the model wasn't going to, considering what they needed to do. So with the rear projection, and then it was the transmission, and the breakup, so that you're getting the crackle in the signal, because it was like a gale force hurricane wind outside. Okay, let's just start there. Why are you trying to go outside and there's like large particulate matter blown around? Do you think maybe your space suit might have an issue with rocks flinging around? It's like, oh no, let's go. Fine. But then when they go into that narrow opening and you're seeing the ribbing on the sides of the walls, I'm sorry, what universe does that look normal? And then there's our friend Veronica Cartwright going, yeah. And then they start losing signal back to the ship because it's breaking up. I'm sorry. I as much as I would love to go and travel in space, I'm gonna let you do all the beta testing and work all those bugs out. I want to go on the cruise liner, spaceship. I'm not going to go on you just built it in your backyard. Let's go out here and see what's. Yeah, I'm not going to be that Discovery girl, because whereas I am someone who can do things to fix it, I'm the one who will be thinking there's got to be something else out here who's going to try to either eat me or jump on me or rip limbs off, and I'm not for that. And Veronica Cartwright stayed in that moment, and people in the audience, if you're an audience person watching it either in a movie theater or at home in the dark and you're freaking out, you're sitting there thinking, why isn't anyone listening to the woman who's talking sense? What's up with that? And then John Hurt with the whole, hey, there's a hole in the floor in the dark. And I mean, we went in that chamber. It was pitch black, blackety, blackety, black, full dark, black. And only their suit helmets are providing light. And then, oh yeah, let's go down into the cavernous.
And this is after they've encountered the space jockey, who is
the crash, because you crash landed one. You have a problem with your ship. The gale force winds, the interference with your signal to be able to talk to somebody that maybe if something happened to you, that the people on the ship could come and get you. You can't talk to them, but still. There's more. There's this 50 billion ton. I mean, how big was this thing? It was the size of a 5-story building, and he's dead.
Yeah,
and blunt force external trauma, explosive trauma, and you're thinking, yeah, let's keep going. And you're looking at the TV or the screen like, and your skin is crawling, and your back is kinking up, and your shoulders, the tension is building in your body, and you don't know why. And that's because you're looking in this thinking, I feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm sorry, because you're in your head going, oh no, it's time to go, it's time to go, it's time to go. Is the ship fixed? I'll go back and help fix the ship. I'm not trying to do this. I don't want to go. And then he just says, let's go into a hole in the floor of this big ship in the dark. Did I mention it was dark? Because it was dark. It's like, really, dude? How about you go by yourself and, we'll call you from orbit. How about that? Oh, my God.
Yeah, and you go down there and you're like, there's objects down here. It looks like leathery eggs of some kind. And you're like...
With this mist that's reactive when you disturb it. Okay, let's listen to your language there. Leathery eggs, mist, reactive, disturbing. Flee, dude. Time to go. Time to leave, time to go. You see why there is a warning signal that brought you to LV-426. This thing is dead, and it's really badly dead. Perhaps connect the dots to the big leathery objects and the big dead thing upstairs. But that shot when they're lowering him down was amazing. That wide shot is, oh my God, because you see all of the veining and the bones and the structure and all of it. Doesn't look like the ship above anymore. It now looks like a whole different environment that you're in that does not look organically connected to this ship. Any of that potentially maybe given John Hurt the hint to get out?
No, he's just curious. So he's going to press on to the point where he's going to go, he falls down, breaking the plane, the barrier. And no, he's not going to crawl back out. He's going to go over to one of the eggs, touch it.
Hey, something's moving in there.
Yeah, let me just take a closer look.
Well, wait, let me shine my bright light and piss it off. Because whatever is in the leathery egg that's under the barrier that doesn't like being disturbed. And can we talk about sound design for a moment? That crackly, staticky when he broke and that high-pitched frequency. It's like, I'm sorry, dude, that's not normal. But, this is great. And then let's shine a bright light. Let's piss the thing off. And then you see it. Okay, so at what point, any of these times, you could have just stopped and said, perhaps no. But he's exactly, let's get closer. And that is the jump scare that defines all jump scares in every movie from that point to the end of time. It is so hard to beat that people were screaming in the movie theater that I was in. I know I was on the floor, and it's a nasty place to be on the floor of a movie theater. I hit the floor because I distinctly remember that because, and could you imagine if this movie was done today with 3D, with that thing coming at you like that? Oh my God, it would be awesome.
It's like, okay, so I saw this on my TV screen at home, and even so, I just now when I watch, I've seen the movie so many times, I know it's coming, but I distinctly remember the first time I watched it and just jumping out of my skin.
So let's go back for a second and talk about the brilliance that is Ridley. From the credits and the music that you're hearing, took its time. Even the logo of the Alien title card took its time.
What's great about that is and it's done almost like it's hieroglyphics of fading in one bit at a time, because they had designed a really elaborate they were working on a really elaborate title designs, and in the end they decided on simplicity, which was utterly brilliant.
And then the tagline for the movie was perfect. In space, no one can hear you scream. So that plus this was you just walked in there I don't know if you're a fan of roller coasters, but I
am not.
I love everything about roller coasters, but the thing that gets you, and if there's anyone who's of your listeners who has ever been to Universal Studios, there is a ride called The Incredible Hulk. And it's the first, when you first go into the Islands of Adventure, you walk into the gate to ride the rides, because the movie's part is on the right-hand side and the rides are in front of you all the way back. Immediately to your right as you come in is this ride. When you go in there, it looks like a regular, roller coaster. You're getting in the seat, they strap you in, you hear all the stuff about Bruce Banner, all the stuff, yada, yada. And you're going through and it's like slowly taking you through. And most roller coasters do that slow, just tick, 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 tick. And it's that anticipation building that just what Ridley did was sort of reminds me of that ride, because it was all of this build up and there was like no energy really, but it was tension. The music was help building this tension. And if you're in this movie, you're maybe not, what is this alien? What? I don't understand. Oh, because they're in space. Is that what's alien? I don't understand. And you're looking at the laughing and the joking and the banter. Still, chink, chick, 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 chick. Get to this point. The ship lands. You hear the crunching. You have a little bit of a release of tension, but it's waiting. It's like, no, that was just enough just to let you breathe. But you're still here. Chink, chink, chink. At that point, when John Hurd goes down and everyone is going, and you're just yourself mad at him. And then he looks in the egg and the egg hits the Incredible Hulk ride. As you're going up the hill, you're still inside. It fakes you out. And the way that ride starts freaks the crap out of everyone who's never been on it. And it's one of the best rides in the park. This was that. I don't want to say what it is, because in case we ever get back to Orlando after all of this stuff, please ride that ride. If you don't ride any other ride, ride that ride, because it'll remind you of Alien, because it was such a fake out with that ride at the beginning. And it was such the ratcheting and the building, and even the walk through the ship with the little, dipping, the what was that? It was some sort of a little bird that was going up and down, and all of the negative air, and the helmet that was talking to the thing, and all the clicking and the back and forth, and when the hyperbaric chamber or the deep sleep chamber opens, and all that negative air, and again, that's ratcheting up all that tension. And all you're doing is taking a walk through the ship so they can wake up and kind of get going. And then after a while, you kind of relax a little bit, and then this happens. And you're like, and I was of two minds. I was like, what did you think? You deserve that. Dig on it. But then you're like, oh, crap. What? Oh, no. And then they cut from that to, hi, I'm at the ship. Can I come in? And everybody in the movie theater was like, no, leave them, no.
And this was great for me. Just rewatching this last night, because what stuck with me was Ripley saying, "If we break quarantine, we could all die."
Yes,
and I'm like,
yes. Where are we now? Exactly. How exactly? Oh my God. And it's poor Veronica Cartwright. It was the one time where she was sort of like trying to save herself. Please open the door so I can get in. You can leave them outside. But and there's Ripley like, no, open the door. No, open the door. Dude, we have to think about this. Do you really? And there's that last save when you're playing the game. Are you sure you're saving to go forward? Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to save? Are you sure you want to do that? And then you open that door, and then that's it. You are in it and don't realize it yet.
And God, and this is the point where you really just want to smack the shit out of Ash, because like at this point you just think he's like this
suck up. He's a suck up. He's a suck up,
and he's a sexist asshole who is not listening to Ripley because she's a woman.
Can we have a moment of praise, honor, and remembrance of Sir Ian Holm, because
he is brilliant.
Nailed that. He nailed it, because he was just like, what? I don't understand. But the captain said, I'm sorry, but when he's off the ship, who's in charge? Oh, I must have forgotten. It's like, and every woman who's listening to this has had some guy on your job who has dismissed you like that. And I just wanted Ripley to just on top of his head, because, dude, really? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And he just came in and just opened the door. And you're like, and I remember thinking, you need to punch him. You need to slap him. You just need to just backhand him something. Just trip him, throw something at him. But he was, oh my God, Ash was an ass. He was, absolutely. Beyond.
And this is, like, Ash is one of the most brilliant aspects of this film, because what I love about it is that you get to the point later in the film when it's revealed that he's an android, but it hasn't been set up at all in the film. You don't even know that there are androids in this version of the future. So you get to the point where he starts. I love when he starts going haywire, and you get that drip of like milk colored liquid, coming down, and you're like, did I see that? Is that just sweat? It looked
that's some bizarre sweat, because
what color? And then he just starts acting.
And with
crazy.
Everything else that was going on, which we'll talk about, but with everything else that was going on, that was already insane. This little particular factor, just, oh, by the way, let's just add this.
Yeah, and then by the time you get to the point where Parker, knocked, him against the head, and then it comes clean off, and you see that he's this weird looking machine. And that's another thing. This was before the Terminator, so this was like a completely unique, different design of an android, and it's creepy. You got like,
because before then robots were mechanoid. Robots were little box with the head, Robbie the robot, danger. It was so predictable. Robots would never look human. And I remember in the scientific community, it was the argument about making AI look too humanoid. The threats, because you're reading the science fiction during that time, Robert Heinlein novels and Isaac Asimov novels. And if you're reading the science fiction at the time, it was the whole, and even, Blade Runner, do androids dream of electric sheep? The whole thing of, you can't tell who's an android or not, because they have been made to be so human. And even going forward into Aliens, when Bishop is like, I prefer, artificial person, and we're offended now. So we're AI who could be offended by, titles and whatever. But they didn't know. And you know what I mean? They didn't know. With everything else that's going on, that was just shocking. And every time they turned around a corner, it was another terrible thing. This gets dropped in the middle of it. And Parker's face was like, I'm gonna beat your ass, because I've been wanting to beat your behind this whole time, because you're annoying, you're a bureaucrat, but I didn't want to lose my shares. But now, I'm fitting to, it's about to be on. And when he decided, no, let's flamethrower this, because we don't need this getting up and coming to find us afterwards, because with the head off, the body was still doing all of this. And then there was Ripley Smart. He might know how to kill it. We have to figure it out. And Ian,
just this gross sequence of, just all covered like in,
milk and yogurt, and like,
it's like they used like pasta for his innards with these little like
they weren't grapes. They were like little lycra balls or whatever, little mylar balls.
And he just looks so outlandish and bizarre, and that's what's so unnerving, because it doesn't fit our normal conception of what a robot is. So it's this really creepy thing where you're like, what makes this thing tick? Like, how does all that work? And there's something very unnatural and just disturbing about it. And
but before we go to this, you have to make this point and then go back, because not only did we not know that there were androids like this, the fact that he revealed the conspiracy, that the company, the evil Wayland Yutani. So can you even trust the ship's computer? Because if this thing was programmed to sacrifice all of us to get this thing, to bring it back from LV-426. So y'all were all bait. Okay? You were all bait. And the android and the ship were in on it. And that was blowing their brain. I mean, it's just, see you, Amy. But
hi, Amy.
But it's you know what I mean? So all of this is going on, and then you go back. So here is everything is being revealed and revealed and revealed and revealed, and there were still revelations to come. Now let's go back to, you've got in the quiet relative before you still have that last moment to punch out and get out of here. And as harsh as it would have been, I'm sorry, Kane would have been out the door. Sorry, gotta go. I'll put you in a little bio suit out here, however long you survive, or we'll put you in the shuttle and we'll put you out in the space and maybe you'll run across a shipping lane or whatever. But no. But you get into the med bay and this thing has melted onto his face. And I'm sitting there thinking he's dead. He's got to be dead. But then when they take the thing off, and it wraps around his throat, I'm like, okay, what part of he needs to go? And then Yaphet Kotto adds this bit of humor that releases tension, but not dispels it. Why don't you freeze him? Put him in the freezer. Why don't you freeze him? Like, oh my God. And then there's Ash. Well, no, we have to look. We have to figure this out. And then that whole scene when they were like, okay, I'm going to cut one of the digits. That was then, at what point now do you not just throw him outside? It's like, wow, biomolecular acid as blood. And it's burning through your ship. And still he's on this. He's here. And they're running through the ship as this thing is just one drop of its blood coming all the way down through the bowels of the ship. Until finally it stops. And he sticks a pencil in there. And I'm like, really, dude? You're going to reach up into stuff that just burned through deck and bulkhead with a pencil. And if it runs down this pencil, that's your behind. And then Harry Dean Stanton is just sitting there like the whole time, like, what are we doing? And then again, the transfer from Veronica Cartwright goes to Yaphet Kotto and Harry Dean Stanton, Parker, and I can think of the actors' names. I can't think of their names. Parker and Rhett, they're sitting there going, y'all not paying us enough for this. Let's get the hell up out of here. Put him in the freezer. Because again, they're thinking nothing can be that bad. It's just, let's freeze him. That'll take care of it. But that speaks to their knowledge and lack thereof. Oh, we'll just freeze it. Nothing will happen. Because if you think about it, when they're in their hypersleep, they don't age. Technically, chronologically, they are. But biosystems have been slowed so far down that virtually they're not aging, so nothing's happening with them. There was the theory of relativity, Einstein, if you were to take two twins, put one on space travel, bring them back, technically they're the same age. But this twin still looks 24. This twin might look 60 because the relativity of the time. But for this twin, it was yesterday. For this twin, it was, 60-something years. So, they're thinking, which was a logical thing. Now, those of us in the audience are like, throw his butt off out the airlock. Why is he still there?
Well,
Why is he still there?
They do care about their friend. So, yeah.
Oh
I know,
my God.
But I will say, though, the second that it's off of him and Kane is waking up, it's like, that's a point I'm like, yeah, that bastard needs to go in the freezer right now. You don't want anything happening with him. No, don't feed him.
No.
There's been an alien on his face with something stuck down his throat. Don't let him do anything. Put him on ice until you get back.
Don't let him wake up, freeze him. And there's Yaphet Kotto being the reasonable person in the room. Why don't you freeze him? Freeze him so we can get back to where this can be dealt with.
But of course,
freeze
and
him.
this goes to the whole sort of dismissiveness that they have towards both Parker and Brett, where they're sort of the underlings, and they're listening to their science officer, Ash, thinking that he's, got a handle on what should be done. But you should listen to common sense. And it's like, you don't know what this thing is doing or has done to your friend. Just stop it in its tracks, whatever it's doing.
Exactly. Hold on one second. I'm just going to plug my laptop in. The battery just came up.
I see you guys are talking about my lack of facial hair again. Yes, I did, in fact, shave. And if Erin was here,
sorry about that. It was all of a sudden the battery announcement was like, hey, your battery's getting low. I'm like, okay. Having a true alien moment. I was like, wait a minute. What just happened? Oh, the battery. But, I mean, even as they're like, hey, Dallas was hiding in Mother because he was listening, to classical music, and he gets reamed out by Ripley, and she's sitting here going, but I'm second in command, but I'm the captain, and what you did, and again, she's being dismissed. And then you get this call, hey, you might want to come down here. Is it, Kane? Yeah, you might want to come down here.
This is like, and this is another thing about Ash being a total dick. It's like repeatedly he's, in that instance, Dallas is like, has his condition, changed, and he's like, it's interesting. You better come down here. And then later on, he's like, it's easier if you just come and see. It's like, bastard, just say what's going on.
With everything that just happened, the man has a thing stuck to his face. Our ship almost boiled down to where if it had breached the outer hull, we're screwed. Could you just tell me what it is? Oh, no, come on down. It's like, oh, slap him. Oh, please slap him. And then they get down there and it's off of him and they don't know where it is. I'm like, dude, snatch him out of the room, put him in a freezer, and we don't know where this thing is. And then they go in the room. Classic horror movie. Why did you go in the haunted house? Okay, so you're going to go in the house where the monster is in the dark, backwards.
And Ridley does some like this. This is a point in the movie where he goes ahead and gives in to what he calls cheap scare tactics, but they work brilliantly. Yes. Is when you have, it's super quiet. And then, one of the people starts to walk off screen and then they knock something over. And it's like, oh, jeez.
Yes.
And then you do the classic thing of making it seem like, Ash is walking towards the corner thinking that something's about to jump out at him, when in fact it's about to, jump down on top of Ripley. And it's like the whole scene just like, the whole movie is setting you on edge, and it's funny that we think that this is the big thing that's gonna be scaring us.
Exactly. So we were so naive. Oh, poor us. The viewer is like, oh my God, is that? But again, we're all sitting there thinking, but it was on his face. But it was on his face. But you should put him in the freezer, and all you can hear is echoing in the back of your head. Why don't you freeze him? Why don't you freeze him? Listen to Parker. Parker's actually making sense. Why aren't you listening to Parker? Come on. And then he finally does wake up and he's like, oh, can I please get something to eat? And I'm like,
it's like, no.
Oh my God. I remember being in the movie theater distinctly be in the movie theater going, this is bad. This is gonna be bad. This is gonna be bad. So everyone kind of felt like, okay, there's probably something else going on. No one just had any idea of what the something else was gonna be. And
we just got joined by a special guest in the chat.
Hey, Helen. Hey, Helen. But yeah, there was absolutely no way. Hi, sweetie. And you're our favorite person too. But yeah, no one had any idea of what was coming. But then the fact that he's all sweaty, oh, please, can I get something to eat? No, freeze. At that point, I'm like, no, you got to go outside. You need to sit outside till we figure out what's up. You know, it's like when your dog knocks something over and you put the dog in their crate and they're just looking at you like, can I come out? No. You gonna sit here and figure out what you did. And he's like, no, put him out. Put him out.
I want to pause. I want to pause real quick because we're coming up on talking about the big scene, and I just want to do my mid-roll real quick because I actually don't have anything planned for my next episode of this show yet. However, you guys are going to want to, I say this as if you're not already, but you're going to want to tune in this Sunday to Here Be Dragons, because if you're enjoying hearing about Alien, you are not going to want to miss our retro review of James Cameron's 1986 sequel, Aliens, that Stephen and I are going to be doing, and we're welcoming on a special guest, my good friend Laura, who I have had the pleasure of hanging out with for the past 3 Con of Thrones, and she loves this franchise and Aliens especially. So
awesome movie. Awesome movie, awesome taglines, awesome. I mean, Game Over came from this. I love Bill Paxton in this movie so much, but my spirit animal, my Patronus, is Vasquez.
Yeah.
That girl is a badass. I love her. But oh my goodness, I'm so jealous. But yes, we must all be there on Sunday.
So yeah, hopefully I'll have something else lined up for this show by then, so I can announce it for you guys. But for right now, my attention is focused on that. This is a whole Alien week, so I'm really excited. Okay, yeah. And do you have anything coming up that you're working on, Carole?
I am actually working on something, but it's not related to movies. It's more related to current events. I'm working on a project called Pivot to the New Normal, where we have been working with like 600-700 people on this communication project. And we have been talking about current events. We've been talking about George Floyd. We've been talking about Breonna Taylor. We've been talking about a couple of really well-known books about, you know, what is it about why this keeps happening. And it is involving 2 sets of groups of people. So you have people of color in some of the breakouts, you have non-people of color in the other, in the first 4 sessions. In the last 4 sessions, and we're all covering the same topics, in the last 4 sections, everyone's going to come together. And it's to promote how we each in our own communities think about something, and then how can we communicate that across communities to make sure that everybody is really getting. I'm hoping at some point that they will record it, edit it down, and it'll be out there for people to be able to see. It's really powerful. So I've been really happy to be a part of that.
Excellent, good. I'll be looking forward to that. And of course, if you guys don't know, Carole has guested a couple times on Helen McLuhan's Fangirls channel talking Tolkien. So please do check out some of her stuff over there, because you guys are fantastic together. And
the Fellowship of the Bling, I love it. We must please go visit. Wander all about Helen's channel. She's excellent.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive back in. Yeah, they stupidly decide that they're going to
let's have dinner,
feed Kane, And what's so brilliant about this is Ridley does this like really slow, like subtle zoom in on Kane as he's eating. It's like you just know something something bad is coming, and Ash is like just looking over. He's curious to see what's gonna happen. It reads at the time as like he's sort of concerned that something's about to happen, and you're also like, dude, you obviously suspect that something is about to happen. Why don't you let everybody else in on it? But of course, he's not going to, because this is what he wants. He wants to, see what's going to happen, and he's curious.
And this scene is really important because it's like the last piece of normal. And again, I take you back to the roller coaster. It's that last couple of ticks when they pause you at the top of the hill and you're looking around and you're like, oh, the drop off is coming. But it's those last couple of ticks and everyone's laughing, they're joking, the food is terrible, they're smoking, everything that was just, you would be normal people hanging out in the break room, having lunch. And then it was funny, it was a little bit of a misdirect because Kane briefly coughs and everybody looks at him. And then he laughs, and then everybody goes back into it. So it was like this brief, and then he takes it away. And I'm like, I hate you, Ridley. I hate you, Ridley. I hate you, Ridley. And you almost relax a little bit because it does. It makes, and again, it's like that pressure valve. If you have an Instapot, you just release that valve just a little bit and hear that psst. And then they're laughing and joking, and then the coughing and the choking.
And then it's me with the pause button, like, nope.
It's like, come on, you can't be on the top of you can't be on the top of the roller coaster and then go, nope, I'm gonna just get out and walk down the hill. Nope, you can't do that. You're on the ride, John.
But then I'll press play again, and all right, I'm ready. Let's go.
And interestingly, how they set this whole thing up, because it ran for a bit. It's not like your typical horror movies that you have now, and it's like boom, jump scare. It's the monster. He milked that.
Yeah, the editor Terry Rollins talked about they let these scenes play slow, because then when the terrifying stuff happens, then they cut the picture really fast and play to those scares, and so it's all the more terrifying because it's this lull throughout the film that somehow still manages to have you're on the edge of your seat more because they let those scenes play out.
Yes, and the other part of it is that you're tense, and after a while you forget why. Okay, you're in this horror movie, but you don't know it's a horror movie. Oh, it's an alien movie, but you're not quite sure why. You're nervous, and the whole beginning, it's like, what is that? Almost like 20-30 minutes of the film before anything happens, and then these little moments happen, and then it's just your back, your shoulders, your gut, your jaw, everything is there, and then these little releases, and then you have this dinner meeting where everyone is kind of laughing and joking, and you kind of almost, in a sense, it's gonna be okay. They've got the thing. Nothing happened to him. He's been awake for a minute. Silly, stupid rabbit. Why did you allow yourself to get totally flim-flam and bamboozled? And then it starts. And I mean, even with the horrible coughing, and everybody has that perfect reaction. Hey, man, what's up? You drinking too fast? And hey, slow down. The food's not that bad. And that's Parker. And it just goes and it goes and it goes. And then they throw him on the table and he's writhing and jerking and all of this stuff. And Veronica Cartwright tells this excellent story about how they did not tell her what was going to happen. They kind of knew because they had to set things up.
They had a vague idea of what was supposed to happen, but like with all the blood shooting up and the fact that it all sprayed like in her face, there's that great shot, and that's a real reaction.
And she falls back over the banquette with her feet in the air, and that was her, because she was just like, get away from me, and that was perfect. And it was, you just look at it and you're like, oh, y'all are done. Y'all are done. And then, but yet there's more, because the thing is screaming and he starts up again with I'm like, okay, what part of chop off his head, kill that thing? And then your favorite person, Ash, wait, what? Of all the, again, the last moment that you could have caught this thing, killed this thing, and survived this, and Ash interferes. You just wanted to reach through the screen and throttle Ash. Just, and if you thought maybe he was in on it and maybe he wasn't, that just like tipped you over to what does he know?
Here's the thing, though. There's still sort of this. There's still reasoning behind it, because they've established that the facehugger bled acid. So it's the fact that Parker is ready to sort of attack it. You don't want to risk acid pouring from this thing when they're now up in space, because they're going to be screwed if it actually melts through the hull. So,
but even so, okay, Parker, don't like puncture it, but Parker had the right answer. Grab the thing, contain it, stick it in a lunchbox. I mean, there's some Tupperware on the counter where you're serving food. Stuff it in there, and well, Kane, has been nice to know you. Bye. We'll tip out a 40 for you, but you did that. But Parker had the right instinct, which is to grab it, because this is bad. This is bad. Because Parker did remember, oh man, if this came from that, this is not good. And then there's Ash interfering, and out the door it goes. And then that silence in the room when they're just all going, oh, we're screwed. We're screwed. We're screwed. And I mean,
but even then, you're still like, you don't know what's waiting ahead, because you're like, okay, well, the thing's a baby. So, it's not going across.
Well, they don't know it's a baby. They don't know it's a baby. They're like, oh, this it's small. They're thinking it's small.
Well, it's small. So this is still, we can still handle this.
We can get this.
Yeah.
So let's get the duct tape and the glue out, because that's when that starts. Let's get this, and we'll get a net, and we'll get the other thing, and we'll do all this other stuff. Okay. And we'll all drive it through the airlocks. Here we go with the airlocks, the beginning of the famous airlocks. We'll get it. Yeah, but go through the vents, and we'll blow it out of space. Okay, we'll work in pairs. We'll get it. We'll make it happen.
But before we get to that, they're walking around trying to catch this thing. And then we get to, it's like, they have the whole thing with the cat where they think it's the cat, and then it runs off, and it's like, damn it, Brett, why'd you let it go? And then it's like, okay, well, go get it. We'll continue on. It's like, no, don't split up. Have you guys never seen one of these movies?
No, here we go. Don't split up. What is wrong with you? So here's my thing. When you made that comment, I was in the movie theater, my sister, her boyfriend, and I'm a kid, and I'm looking at that, and the guy next to me, the boyfriend, is next to me, and he goes, "It's in the cat. It's in the cat." And I look at him and I go, "Oh, it's in the cat. It's in the cat." So then it spreads in the movie theater. It's in the cat. It's in the cat. It's in the cat. Screw that cat. It's in the cat. The cat needs to go out the airlock. So the cat was the only one who had survival instincts of, dude, let me out of here, because this is nuts.
There's a funny story in the documentary for the film where, when you're getting towards the end of the film and Ripley starts, she hears the cat over.
She's going after Jonesy.
And she's going after Jones, and apparently somebody in the theater at one of the screenings was like, "Leave the fucking cat."
Bye, Fluffy. It's been nice knowing you. Oh my God.
But
Oh my goodness. And I mean, again, jump scare again, but then, it just like we just did, everyone's like, why are you splitting up? Why are you doing that? Why?
And then he comes across
why?
The skin that, okay, this thing is,
molted.
Yeah. And you're like, oh shit. It's like, run, Brett, get out of there.
But think about it. So he's looking at it and he's like, here, kitty, 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 here, Jones, here, Jones. Okay. And then he's walking through, and then he comes to this hold. And this was brilliant cinematography. And again, use of blacks and the use of, and then why is it a rainforest in the side of the ship that's in the air? I'm a little iffy on that one. Oh, it's the coolant. The coolant must be leaking. Okay, there were some problems. Okay, all right, I'll give you that one. And then the simple swinging of the chains and the clink, 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 and it was quiet.
And the drip of the water on his hat.
And then he takes it off so he can let this on his face. And I'm like, what is that? Are you sure that's water? Because again, I'm somebody who was like, ew, I don't want that on me. And then the most beautiful thing in the entire world that I missed it the first time I saw it, and it was only the second time I went to see it that I saw it. As you're watching the camera pan up and you're looking into all of those chains, you see it upside down swinging, but you don't know what you're looking at.
Now, actually, and this comes to an interesting point, that shot is in the director's cut of the film.
Is it? I thought it was in the regular.
No.
Okay.
You don't see it in the theatrical until, that shot of, that close-up of Brett, and it comes down in the background.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
But even then, in that cut, you don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah, because it's kept so much in the dark, and this is why the conception of the alien is so brilliant, because, and it's the fact that it was a guy in a suit, and so they had to sort of keep him in the shadows for the most part, and it just makes you all the more terrified of this thing because you can't quite completely see it, so you don't know what it is.
And then you see this shot with Jones, who's hidden up in a bulkhead. He's like all back up like this, and he's just looking up at him going, yo, dude, it's been nice knowing you. Bye. Better you than me. And I mean, the cat is the only one with common sense. And then that scream.
Yeah, and this is another difference with the theatrical versus director's cut, where in the director's cut you actually see Parker and Ripley like come in after he's been grabbed, and so you see, but in the theatrical cut actually you don't. It just cuts from him picking up, and then it cuts to this close up of Parker's face where he's sort of stunned and petrified, and it's sort of this really effective, like creepy, like, okay, it's a disconnect between the moments, and which is why I actually like the theatrical a bit better, because it's like, what did they find when they came in the room? You're not quite sure, and that's when they start coming up with this idea of the going through the ducts, and it's like, yeah, I want to get into a situation where I'm, alone with this thing in the ventilation system. No.
Okay, so it wasn't just me, because I'm sitting there thinking, wait, I want to be in even more enclosed space with something that likes the dark. Really? You want me in this little tiny hole with this thing that likes the dark? And right. But I will say it's so interesting watching Ripley and Ash, their dynamic. It's like, Ash, what's going on? I'm collating. What the hell are you collating? Their people are getting knocked off.
What the hell? She's like, what the hell does that even mean?
What does that mean? What do you, Ash, do you have any suggestions? Well, it's an animal. It might be afraid of fire. You think? I'm collating. I'll collate something. You can just see the little thing over top of her head. But oh my God, when the scene, and I'm trying not to mix the two between the director's cut and the theatrical cut, but it was one of the second time I wanted to slap Veronica Cartwright was when she was trying to talk Dallas through that vent. And can we talk about the sound design on that aperture? And I'm like, that sounds like a guillotine, because it was just like, scream. Okay, close it. I'm like, I don't know. And then Dallas had finally a reasonable reaction. You know what? I don't like it. Let me get out of here.
It's like, I want to get out of here.
I want to get out of here. And I'm like, you're just getting there. You're just getting there. You're just getting here. We were here way back over there. Over there. We were here over there. And you're like, oh, I'd like to get out of here now. And she's like, give me a minute. I'm looking at this. I'm like, dude.
And then when it comes back, she's detecting again, and she's like, move, Dallas, and she's not giving him any actual direction. And then he goes down, and then at the last possible minute, she's like, no, not that way.
Go away, run, Dallas, run away, Dallas. No, not that way. I'm like, I know I'm going to be doing this a lot because we talk about this stuff. Just kill her now.
And of course, in the director's cut, we do see what becomes of Dallas later, but I actually prefer it where we don't. Because I think
agree with you there.
Insanely creepy that we never see him again. There's
you don't see Brett. You don't see Dallas. You don't know what happened. The only person that basically gets any kind of a send off is Kane, and they burrito baby him and shoot him out. But yeah, you don't know. And that kind of plays to Aliens, because Ripley is kind of extrapolating. She doesn't ever say, oh, and by the way, they do this and they cocoon them and they do all this other stuff. She's just like, they will take them, because Brett's body disappeared. Dallas's body disappears because Parker comes up with his flamethrower, homemade flamethrower. This is it. No Dallas, no thingy. Let's get out of here. And I'm like, oh, finally. And then that's when it was like, yeah, we don't have enough room to put everybody in the shuttle. Okay. And then Ripley is like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to kill this thing. And then here comes Ash. But we don't know. Maybe it's a misunderstood. We should talk to it. Shut up, Ash. Let's put like pork chops on you and throw you into the vet. Oh my God, I wanted. Really? Oh. That it's just, I can watch it now and still get worked up. That's how
this whole sequence where he starts going haywire is so disturbing. The fact that, and his sort of, the fact that he's going to act out this sort of pent up, sexual desire by curling up a magazine and trying to stick it in her mouth. It's like, the whole thing is like,
because once they get down to the point where Dallas is gone, Brett is gone, Kane is gone, you've got Parker, Lambert, Ripley, and Ash. You've got 4 of them left. And it's like, okay, when Ripley is like, I now have access to Mother. I'm still collating. You collate. I'm going to go talk to Mother. I'm going to get my answers straight from the horse's mouth. And I remember thinking, yes, because he's just, and even then it's like, that's what started to send him over, because it was, I wasn't taught how to deal with these humans who won't just listen to me. Because he was telling people things and they were listening. And then Ripley is like, yeah, man, no. I'm going to go in here and figure out what's going on. We're going to deal with this. We're going to handle this. And then Mother tells it all. But she's trying to get the answer. And it was like, you haven't asked the right question. Because she's like, but I'm asking this. I don't know what you mean. What about this? And she's like, oh, if I could put my face through this and slap you. And then, yeah, mission, y'all are expendable. Get this, bring back. We don't care. Kill the rest of them. Just bring it back. And then there's Ash out of nowhere. It's like, where the hell did you come from? And he's just like, oh, you just don't understand. There's a purpose to this. You know, you should trust me, baby. And he's just wigging out. And you're like, what is wrong with you? And then to your point, then the little thing. And you're like, what is that? And it wasn't processing in your brain. He's an android. Because like you said, it was never set up. The possibility, the probability, the happenstance, never even introduced as a concept.
And that's what makes it so brilliant, because it's the sort of the classic, sort of thing with, it's like if you introduce a bomb in the story, it's going to go off at some point, or they're going to have to, it's going to be activated at some point at least. So if they introduce the concept of androids in this movie, where, as far as you are aware, there are no androids aboard the ship, one of them is going to be an android. But by not saying anything about it, it's out of left field.
It doesn't dispel the tension of anything. It adds pressure.
Yeah.
Because, wait, we're trying to get away from this thing that's trying to kill us all. And
we now have another problem.
We have this. And now we know that the company that we work for, the company is a problem. Ash is a problem. And oh, by the way, Oswald over there, the 8-foot alien trying to kill us all. It's like, and the ship itself is, hey man, what's going on? Okay, great. So my question became this. I understand there was a shuttle, but there was a drop ship that took them all down. What happened to the drop ship? Because the drop ship could have handled them all, because they were all, or maybe not, because Parker and Brett were back fixing the ship. Well, no, they were on the drop ship. You know what I mean? So that was the only plot hole for me. It's like, yes, there's this escape shuttle, but what happened to the drop ship? Because the drop ship is what they went onto the surface of LV-426. They didn't land all of Sulaco. Remember?
It's the Nostromo. Actually, that is
Nostromo.
The ship that they're on. The rest of it is basically what they're hauling, which is an oil refinery.
Correct. But I'm saying, then why couldn't they drop that out, leave the oil stuff behind?
Because the alien was with them.
In there. Okay. Yeah, because I was a little fuzzy on that. I'm like, but they had a drop ship. It's like, okay, fine.
Oh,
but
Steven has to run. Bye, Steven. Thanks.
Bye.
But
yeah, but that whole thing with like you talked about before with Ash, and okay, let's figure out what's going on. He's trying to kill her, and then Parker to the rescue. Yeah, my man. And then he almost took Parker's head off. I was like, oh, great. He's an android and he's strong and he's crazy and he's bleeding white, drippy, whatever that is. But I'll tell you, the ultimate, Ash was an ass to the end. Well, you have my best wishes. Yeah, bye. You're done.
I can't lie to you about your chances.
I can't lie to you about your chances.
But you have my sympathies. And then he smiles.
Then he smirks. And then he smirks.
It's like, okay, light this bastard on fire. Then take the flamethrower.
And Parker was like, you know what? Let's make sure your behind doesn't get up. Finally, somebody in a horror movie who did the right thing. Kill it. Don't turn your back on it. Kill it till it's dead. Dead, dead, dead. Empty a clip in it. I have never understood that. See, I would never be in a horror movie. Hey, Carol, we're going over here where there's no power and there have been killers. Yeah, I'm getting out the car, guy. Okay, roll credits. So this is why I would never be in a horror movie. But this one, I'm in it now. He had the right instinct. Okay, which is flame this up. And then they're like, okay, we're getting the ship. We're going to take our chances. We're just going to work this out. But then go get the coolant in the bottom of the ship. I didn't understand that. I was like, okay, again, you're splitting up, which isn't good. And then Parker and Lambert are going to go get the coolant. Ripley's trying to get the ship ready. And I have never seen so many knobs and things and twisties and twist this backwards and put this in. And then Mothers tries to shut them down. And it's like, are you kidding me? But when it gets Parker and Lambert, oh my God, my heart broke for them.
And that is... It's so disturbing because there's that.
Get out of the way, get out of the way. And she was just frozen in fear.
And then they, and the whole thing, but we haven't talked very much about the design of the alien, but it's a very sexualized design because that's what H.R. Giger was
wanted
all about. And so. And that plays up in this scene where the last thing we see is it's, putting one of its claws or whatever up.
The tail between her legs.
The tail up between her legs, which actually is an editing choice because that shot is actually... It's actually Brett's leg.
It's Brett's leg. She said that because she was like, I wouldn't know. I wasn't in that. She was hilarious in the commentary. I loved her.
And so, but they insert it here and really that adds a dimension because then you hear her screaming over the
system. Oh my God. It just echoes and echoes and
what the hell is going on? And it's just absolutely horrifying. And
to the fact that they got that far. Got that far. And maybe being delayed by Ash is what cost them. That's what just made me angry. And then you could just see Ripley's resolve became, gotta go. And she's doing what she needs to do. She goes down there and gets whatever, and then she hears the cat. And then we're start up again. It's in the cat. It's in the cat. It's in the cat. Leave the cat. Bump the cat. Get another cat. Thank you, but the cat will take care of the cat self. Why? It's not bothering the cat. It's coming after all of y'all. It's not looking at that cat. Leave the cat alone. And then she puts the cat in the carrier, and you feel bad for the cat. It's like the cat was fine till you did that. And then I can't remember his director cut or the.
There's so many shots of her carrying that crate around and like just, sort of it getting knocked over. This and
swinging
that.
Throwing it. The poor cats and are like meow 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 meow. I'm like poor little Jones is in there just beat the hell and gone. It was like I was fine where I was. You just tell me where to go. I'll meet you at the shuttle. Why is this happening?
Yeah, I do want to, because I know we're running really short on time, but I want to talk about like how utterly brilliant the filming and the lighting of everything when she's going down the corridors. It's like your heart is just pounding out of your chest.
And the klaxon. And after a while, all you hear is da 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 da. You have 15 minutes to exit before you can turn this off. You have no more time to stop this thing. God, final countdown is such and such, and she's throwing things and running, and the steam and the dark, and she's going from dark to light, and you don't know where this thing is.
And and the thing is that when all the lights are flashing and everything, the walls look like the alien because they're in darkness.
Yes.
And just the shape of how they're made, it looks like the alien's head and all that stuff. So it's like every corner that she's doing, you're like, is that it? Is that it? Yeah. And then she thinks she's in the clear, but then the alien is like standing right in front of where she needs to go, and now she has to run all the way back. Trying to shut off light. And this is again about the technology and the fact that it's so it's not as sophisticated as more your typical futuristic science fiction film.
She has no blasters. She has no ray guns.
Yeah,
it is just her in that environment.
Well, she's trying to shut all the stuff back down, and it's like she's literally like 2 or 3 seconds behind on, you know, actually pulling the lever down, and nope, doesn't work. You were too late.
God damn you, mother! I was just like, ooh. I mean, everything is coming at her, everything, and she is just like, I'm just survival mode. I'm just trying to beat. I just want to. If you don't let me out, and then, you know, blowing out the panel, mother's panel, and getting the override, and finally getting everything to be where it does, and then talking about sound design when she hurls poor Jones into the shuttle and the door shuts, and then it's like because you went from that cavernous, echoey, all that blaring, all this other stuff to compression. Now you're in a box, and she gets in there and pulls the thing, and then you see the ship drop and pull, and you hear the 15, 14, 13, 12, and the computer almost, to me, sounds like it's smirking. Ha! Hoo-hoo! You're screwed. Yeah. Get out of here if you can. Whatever. You're toast. And then she gets away, and then that beautiful explosion. And you know she's nowhere near far enough away, and she's trying to get away, and it just goes off, and then it finally burns off. And it's like, wow, did she make it? And then you're like, wait, I don't hear any music that says she's good. And then she gets up and she's getting ready, and she takes Jonesy and puts Jonesy in the pods.
Where you have the red herring of Jones, because you know, you had that shot of the alien sort of turning its head, looking at
Jones in the thing. Yes.
So you're like, is there something going on with the cat?
Oh yeah, I told you. It's in the cat. It's in the cat. It's in the cat. It's in the whole theater. It's in the cat. It's in the cat.
So you're worried about that. And again, talking about, again, you've got the interior of this escape pod of things looking like the alien. So, you know, it's like you're focused on, okay, what she's doing. She's punching in some stuff. And then it's like right in plain sight. You don't even notice it. And then its arm pops out. And it's like, like, this isn't over.
It's in there like, oh, well, hey, you going for a ride? I'm going with you. I'll be over here. Okay. I'll come see you later. I'm gonna have a nap. You know, I ate well. I'm good. I'm fine. You go to sleep. Go to sleep. And then she's sitting there like, and she's put Jones in the, again, you've put Jones in a concealed container in the sleep pod. And the way they have her working it out, getting in that spacesuit, singing that song, and going through, and they couldn't do Twinkle Twinkle Little Star because they didn't want to pay for it. So they came up with Lucky Star. You are my lucky star. And I'm just like, oh God, she's naked now. Oh God, she doesn't even have anything on her. Oh crap. Oh man. Oh dude. Oh seriously. And it's just over there like, I'm chilling and I'm resting. And she's over there, and then she gets into the seat and she straps herself in, and then she starts flicking buttons, and you're like, why are you pissing it off? What are you doing? And then it became clear, and she shoots it, and it gets stuck, and then she fires the engines on it. I'm like,
it's like that last moment when the gun like doesn't go all the way out and it gets stuck. It's like, no, because it's still hanging on. It's like, no, why?
She has been through all of it, and you're just like, girlfriend, hang in there. You can do this. And it's hanging on the outside going, hi, I'm still here. It's like, no, you seriously? It's like, can you leave? You're the guest that won't go. And we put you out the house, and you're still trying to come back in. Go away. And then she shoots her engines, which means she now has no fuel. And she's like, hey, I hope I get picked up. But then when it finally goes away, that's the only bad shot, because then you can see it's a guy in a suit. You know what I mean? Because the way it's backlit, if you look at it, it does kind of look like a guy in a suit. But up until then, and his name was Kevin. God, what was his last name? He was like 7 feet tall and skinny in that suit. And he was Harry in the Hendersons. He was Harry with the TV show Harry and the Hendersons. He played the Bigfoot, and he was the Predator in Predator, the first one.
No, actually,
I thought it was him.
I have, I can't pronounce this. His name is, I think, Balaji Badeo.
Was he the first one? I thought it was the same guy.
He was a Nigerian. And they hired him because he was so tall and slender.
Oh, I thought it was the same guy because I know the Predator and one of the follow-up aliens was this other guy. Then it was the other guy, but it was that same concept of you found this body actor who could go in that suit. And I mean the crouching down and the insectoid and oh my God, I thought it was the same guy, but even so, he did amazing work in that suit, considering he was in that suit.
Yeah, I know you have to go, but I do want to talk really quickly. This music, the movie ends with a piece of music, which is a classical piece by Howard Hanson.
Yes.
And I'm not going to be able to talk as much about the music as I would like to, because there's a lot of controversy with the score in this film. It was composed by Jerry Goldsmith.
Yes.
Who brilliant composer, and he wrote a brilliant score for this. But unfortunately, two things. Ridley Scott was not as sort of experienced working with composers.
He didn't understand what they needed as far as timing was concerned.
And also the editor on this film, Terry Rowlands, had also been a sound editor for many years. So he inevitably thought that he knew what was best from a sound perspective for the film overall. And what happened was that he actually temp tracked this film, which basically means when you're editing and you don't have a score yet, you put in pieces of music that'll fit to give you an idea of how the film will play. And he used a lot of Jerry Goldsmith music, which, you know, I gather he thinks is a compliment to Jerry Goldsmith, but the thing is that composers hate temp tracks.
Yeah.
Because it creates an idea of what's expected from him, and then they aren't interested, and then the people making the movie aren't interested in what the composer actually comes up for original score. They just want it as close as possible to the temp
whatever the temp track. Yep.
Yeah, and so they had a lot of disagreements on this film, and Goldsmith wanted to open the film with more sort of romantic, lush music. And if you listen to the soundtrack, you can hear his original main title. His idea was that you start off with sort of the romanticism of space exploration, and then as the film progresses, you reveal the horror.
Yeah.
And instead, what they wanted was to open up immediately with the creepiness factor, which I don't totally know that wasn't a good call, because the way the movie opens up with the music, it immediately puts you on edge.
On edge. Yeah. It does.
And so it's funny. From one perspective, I'm very much into defending the composer's vision, but on the other hand, the end result is very good.
Well, but the thing of the matter is that if you're going to hire a composer, I think something similar happened with James Cameron with Aliens, and with that composer, and I mean those two were at loggerheads for that whole movie. And same thing, James Cameron ended up doing the exact same thing. But funnily enough, he used the same composer for Titanic, and all was forgiven because he understood more about the craftsmanship that goes into, because as a musician, I understand that. It's like, but you have this person who, just like an actor who creates this character, the music is a character. Now, in this particular regard, it's like the movie Legend. There was the Tangerine Dream soundtrack that came into the US, and then there was this other, that was in Europe, and then there was this other soundtrack that came in the US, and everyone has their preferences, but if you pick the wrong accompaniment, it will ruin the mood. And it will not quite set everything up.
And that's the thing, because that's another Ridley Scott, Jerry Goldsmith collaboration where actually he better understood how to work with the composer by that point, and they fine-tuned that score perfectly. But it was the studio who said, "No, we want this Tangerine Dream soundtrack. We're going to throw this out." Although I think it's the Jerry Goldsmith score did still get used over in Europe.
Yes, it was, and then over the anniversary edition, because I have it, the special edition of it, I actually have it with the original score, and it's actually really good.
They restored it,
yeah. So it's really, really good. But it's interesting, that whole push and pull that happens between, if you get that wrong, you're going to ruin the energy of your movie. But in this particular case, with what Ridley did, I'm kind of with you on that one. I love that Hanson piece. I've played that Hanson piece. It's an amazingly beautiful, lush piece at the end of that, because it kind of is like, wow. But it also has its own tension in it, because it's all this beautiful da 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 da, but then it ends on this, diminished, chord with this dissonance in it that lets you know everything isn't beautiful. It's over, but not quite the way you wanted it.
But Jerry Goldsmith did, he has a quote which I think is really apt for what Ridley didn't understand at the time, which was that apparently the word he kept hearing from them was to make his score very visual. And he's like, I'm not visual. That's your job.
That's right.
With the images, I'm focused on the emotion, the underlying emotion.
Right.
And so, I think the end result does work very well, but at the same time, it's kind of a shame because it is kind of a hatchet job of Goldsmith's score. Virtually nothing in the film is where it's supposed to be.
Right.
And that's a real shame, because I think that if Ridley knew how to better work with composers, I think that they could have
really created
something that they were both happy with.
Yes, absolutely. Well, dude, I actually have to go. I got to go back to work.
I'm just happy we managed to get through the whole movie, which I wasn't sure if we could.
All of my problems. Again, I apologize if the sound card on the other computer wasn't working, but the backup oldie dusty, hey man, it's still here. It still works.
Okay, so I've put Carole's Twitter link in the description. Please go check all her stuff out. She's absolutely fantastic, and thank you for coming on. And
thank you for thinking of me. When you said you wanted to do this movie, I was like, yes, I'm there. I'm all in.
Yeah, and just a reminder, guys, that I'm going to be continuing the journey into the Alien universe on Sunday at 6:00 on Here Be Dragons with my co-host Stephen Stark and our special guest, my dear friend Laura, and we're going to be talking about James Cameron's 1986 sequel, Aliens, which I think is just as phenomenal, but for completely different reasons. He
got it, and he paid homage to Ripley, but he was like, I'm not gonna ever be able to be Ripley, so I'm gonna make it mine. And he did. One of my favorite action, and it started a whole new genre of the action space. The way he did that, it was just amazing, absolutely amazing. I'm so jealous.
All right. So we're going to take off. I hope you'll still come watch, though, Carole.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be there.
Good. Okay, guys, that's it. Thank you all for coming. We were a bit rushed today, so I didn't get the chance to really say hi to you all, but I so appreciate you coming to watch, and I'll see you this weekend. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.